Alrighty, peoples. I want to talk about a little experience I had recently, and this may help you guys if you ever end up getting a shipping container or even a portable building to put out on an off-grid property or something like that. And it's a little trick the truck driver showed us when we had a bit of trouble getting something off. Now, I had the bloke come out and put the cardboard house down. Now, I was with somebody else, and we actually got the same bloke who moved the cardboard house. And they had this lathe built in the late 50s in England. I don't know how they got it to where it was. They don't know how they got it to where it was because it was actually a relative of theirs who put it there. And they wanted to move it back to their place. This lathe, like everything built in the late 50s, really thick, cast, everything. It was a 10-foot bed on the friggin' thing. And the bloke who picked up the cardboard house turned up and he backed this thing, backed his truck up, and he went to lift it up, and the front wheels of the truck just went straight off the ground. I mean, this is a tilt tray truck, one of those ones where they can slide it back and they tilt it down. And the bloke had used truck jacks to manage to lift it up and get a few, because they got like a big base on them and all that to catch all the swarf and all that crap. And of course, this one was like a big monster cast thing, So he just jacked it up with a truck jack and a few bits of wood, and then he got some wood underneath the foot, but he sort of put it under the back part of the foot so that the tilt tray could slide onto the front part, and then you can hook it around, the leg itself, the chain, because there's a winch on them, and then winch it up the tray. Well, we went to do that, and as soon as he got it basically the end of it under the tilt tray under the truck and lifted it, the flipping wheels just come straight off the ground. He said, "You know what? I've lifted stuff that's been 5 ton with this truck and got it on the back without a problem. So that lathe is over 5 ton." And I mean, the bloke didn't want me to video it. He didn't want me to show any photos of it either. Give out much information, but if you've seen that stuff, the real old school machinery, you'll know what I mean. Everything is super duper oversized casting. I mean, this thing was a 10-foot bed on the thing. I mean, it's absolutely huge, this thing. Anyway, it didn't work, so I had to go get someone else and come back the next day. And we got this big blooming, monstrous big, heavy rigid. And it was a long wheelbase one with the dual back axles, and of course everything's all double tyres except the front, which is just normal single tiles. Anyway, this thing, I don't know what it was rated at. I think it was 12 ton or 8 ton or something like that. And we got it up without a problem onto it, and it was reasonably easy to get it up. Getting it off was a bit more of a circus. Now, this thing had been sitting since, they reckon, about 98, maybe 99, but I mean, it had been there for quite a while, probably 98, and basically it had been sitting on clay, and a bit of that had got stuck on the bottom of the feet, and when we pulled it up it was fine, but when he got it into his shed, unfortunately he had a nice high roller door so the tilt tray could come right up, and we got it into his shed, and then we started to want it, and he let the flipping winch go, he let the winch go backwards, and then it got loose, and the friggin' thing was sitting on the tray, and we even had some fun getting it off, because actually twice, even though the handbrake was all on and that, the weight, because he had the tilt tray fully extended, the weight outbalanced the truck, and the truck slipped forwards twice. I mean, this is the thing that's rated to hold 12 ton, and we're sitting there and went forwards once, and so he let the tilt tray move a bit, and then, 10 minutes later, the same bloody thing happened, trying to get this thing off. But as he had it on there and he had it tilted, the damn thing was just sitting there and wouldn't move because of the adhesion of the ground, the bit of soil on the bottom of the feet of this lathe, because it's been sitting outside. And it didn't sort of want to let go and slide off the tilt tray. And he said, "Well, get a few crowbars under it." He said, "This happens all the time. We'll get a few crowbars." So got crowbars basically under the edge of where the big, pickup of all your swarf and that is, and was under the edge of that, and just sort of went with the crowbar a bit and got it to move just a little bit, but still, and then had another go, and it was more or less stuck. I mean, we barely got it to move at all. And he said, shit, well, what are we going to do? I said, the weight of this, the sheer weight of this bloody thing should make it slide off. But, it was the dirt on the bottom, and we didn't see this coming. And here we were with this thing stuck on the truck because of the dirt and maybe a slight amount of rust on the feet of this lathe that more or less caused a perfect grip on the smooth trade tilt tray truck. It wasn't checkered trade, it was smooth trade. The angle we had it at, it didn't want to come off, and we were a bit nervous about sliding something that was probably, we knew was over 5 tonne. It was probably 6.5 tonne off. And, we said, well, gee, this doesn't really seem to be working. Is there any way? And I was saying, well, maybe we could get a jack and sort of, because we had a reasonable jack, probably wouldn't have, lifted it, but it may have been able to achieve what we were achieving with crowbars, and it had wheels on the jack. So I said, well, maybe we could just sort of lift it a bit and it'd sort of skid along on the wheels on the jack. And the truck driver said, well, you know what, there's another way we do these things when they turn to crap like this. He said, you'd be surprised, but soapy water. So the bloke goes and gets a bucket and goes into the house and empties half his wife's dishwashing detergent out into the bucket, with a heap of water, and then splash it in front of the feet. So the tilt tray's like that, and the feet are here. So you splash it in front, so it sort of runs underneath. And I'll be stuffed if it didn't work. And that was it. All we done then was get the crowbar and the thing would slide forward like 8 inches, and then he'd release the winch a bit more, and then he'd give it another little nudge with the crowbar, slide it, and it just kept jerk, and he'd let the winch down a bit more, jerk. We didn't want to just let the winch unwind completely because it was liable to slide off and go straight through the end of the shed or crack the slab or something like that. So he's going 6 or 8 inches at a time, probably about 8 or 9 inches at a time actually, and then you sort of push it and it sort of slide down a bit more. And all this out of 1 bucket of soapy water got us out of the shed. And it's now in his shed, and he's now he's not too good on the internet, and he hasn't been able to find much. He's found the smaller models and how to fix them, but he wants me to have a look on the internet to see about the bigger models because there's a drive belt and there's a clutch, but you can't work out how to get the clutch to engage to get the actual turret to, or whatever you call it, to start spinning, your big chuck to start spinning. And yeah, that's a thing that may help you guys out if you ever get a shipping container and it's a bit of trouble. Just take along a bit of water with you if you don't have some, water nearby. I mean, you can use blooming mud puddles or whatever, and a big heap of liquid dishwashing detergent that you've used to wash dishes by hand. And that may get you out of the crap if you're sitting there paying per hour, which this guy was for the big truck, and you're having trouble getting this thing off. That may work with shipping container. So I just thought I'd mention that one. If you ever get a shipping container that's got a little bit too much dirt on the bottom and you have trouble getting it off a tilt tray truck, use that, and it may save you an hour worth of grief and bullshit trying to get one of these things off, and also this extra half an hour or hour that is going to cost you, because it did cost this bloke extra money just because it took us so long to get this damn thing off and that. And the fact he wanted it so deep back in the shed, the bloke had to drive in the shed, and she was a pretty tight little move to do it all. And you more or less placed this thing directly on the ground, and it didn't crack the slab, and I thought it was going to go through the back wall at one point, but it didn't. But that's a tip to save you all grief and possibly a bit of money with the extra time it takes you to get a shipping container off.